Labour won the by-elections in Mid-Bedfordshire and Tamworth last night. Alistair Strathern secured almost 14,000 votes in Mid-Bedfordshire and saw a swing from the Conservatives of 20.5%. In Tamworth, Labour's Sarah Edwards won almost 41% of the votes with a swing from the Tories of 24%. And it's caused Labour to call for a general election immediately.
My message to the Prime Minister is get in your government car, drive to Buckingham Palace, do the decent thing and call a general election.
It is clear that the voters here have turned their back on a failed Tory government. They've had enough of the decline of the last 13 years and they are crying out for change, positive change that the Labour Party can bring them.
Is it time for a general election, Yasmin?
I think so, but this isn't the moment when it seems least likely, because 2 losses is not very encouraging for the ruling party. So
the ruling party very rarely wins a by-election.
No, but I think these have been quite, from Uxbridge onwards, these have been quite important declarations. So, but I do think we need a general election because, let's be honest, Rishi Sunak does not have a mandate. He wasn't even elected by his own party members, right?
But that's not the first time that's happened.
But Brown. In the end, it does matter.
Liz Truss.
They voted for Liz Truss. At least they voted her in. Okay. He stepped in. And so there's been this thing going on that nobody, not even the Tory party has selected him or elected him. And I think, we do need to decide once and for all which party is going to be in charge for the next 5 years.
It does feel like the general public are making very pointed, decisions in these by-elections.
What a disaster for the Conservatives. I mean, I disagree that you can't read a lot into a by-election. I think you can read a lot into a by-election, actually. Okay. Should we have a general election? Absolutely not, because the UK is a democracy, and democracies are built on consistency, they are built on stability, and we have 5-year term parliaments in this country. And by that being said, you know how long you've got a government for. Governments who chop and change are unable to get anything done. They are not able to fulfil their electoral criteria, what they've said they're going to do in their manifesto, how they're going to be able to plan what they're going to be able to do. That is the reason why we have 5-year parliaments in Great Britain.
Until David Cameron did this, we didn't have these fixed terms.
We had maximum terms of 5 years.
Maximum
terms
there was
of 5
much
years.
More leeway.
And generally they were 5
but
years.
No, but there was some leeway.
2001, 2005, then we had 2010.
But Yasmin, you have to appreciate that short-term thinking is not what we need at the moment. And for a government to be able to provide a policy and really see it through, they're going to have some time.
No, they've had 13 years to mess up this country, not just in terms of all the usual indicators, but mess up the constitutional stability of this country. I never thought, I come from an African country, right? I never thought this country, I would use the word corruption about politics in this country. 13 years. I'm sorry, they've had their time.
Yasmin, don't you want another year for them to muck it up even more? So then you get your victory next year.
No, because I'm not interested in their fortunes. I'm interested in the fortunes of this country. It's getting worse and worse. Come on, Rick, even you know that.
Well, I've got to say, in a year's time, what we've got now is a system where you're seeing these by-elections and they are clear turns to Labour. However, in a year's time, what we've not got, what has not been answered, is what the Labour Party are going to do. And you've seen the poor low turnouts. When we start seeing some consistent policy from Labour, Yasmin, which we've not seen, what do we know? 2030 is coming back. What else do we know? Private school VAT is coming in. So we know a couple of little bits.
But
we don't know. When policy starts to come in, things will get closer. The gap will close. The gap will close as things get closer. There is not a chance on earth we are going to see 20-point swings in a general election
next October.
Are you telling
me you're happy with the record of the Tory party?
I'm not talking about the record. I'm telling you there's absolutely no
chance on...
What
are their policies? Tell me their policies.
Well, they are...
Do whatever is needed, bar kill refugees and asylum seekers. That's their policy. That's the one they're riding on. The other one is foreign policy. Let's go to these countries and declare that we're... What are their policies? For poverty, for cost of living crisis. What are their policies?
Yasmin, exactly. I kind of agree with you. This is all laid out, hang on. So we know what the ruling parties stand for. They have a King's Speech every year. They can outline what they are planning to do in the next year. What we don't know, and this is where it's going to come into play, we do not know what Labour's policies.
But it turns out that we don't really need to for Labour to win big on the by-elections. So just to put things into perspective for you a little bit, a lot of people talking about how huge these swings were in favour of Labour. We're looking at a list of the biggest swings that Labour have seen from the Conservatives. So this is votes going from Conservatives in the Labour's direction. The biggest swing that we saw is still Dudley West. That was back in 1994. But look, Tamworth is just underneath that. That is the second biggest swing on record we have ever seen. So that's Tamworth there. And then we've also got Mid-Bedfordshire. Actually, you'll probably see easier. So if we focus on these two, I mean, that makes the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, top 6.
Do you know what, though? The Tamworth one, if you look at the amount of Labour votes cast was actually less than in the last general election. So
the turnout wasn't great.
Turnout wasn't great. But so Labour supporters are coming out. There is a big bulk of the electorate who are fed up, who do not know where to go. And we don't know, none of us three know in the election, which I think will be next October. When are you going for, Yasmin? June?
Oh, I can't work. I think I might be dead by then. My goodness.
Well, if
my
Labour
blood
get their
pressure is
way
at the highest level it's been for years.
But, I mean, it was about 40% the turnout roundabout for both of these by-elections. So doesn't this say, Yasmin, that actually the country is not happy with the Conservatives, but they're also not willing to get out of bed for Labour?
No, because these are habitual. I mean, this is how generations have been voting for the Tories. It takes a lot of mental adjustment. You know, when you're it's almost
13 years.
No, this isn't longer. No, Bedfordshire, for example, has been.
But she's talking about
the history of this.
Yeah.
And one also has to remember, and I hate to say this, but these two MPs who had to leave, and Sunak should have sacked Nadine Dorries a long time ago. He didn't have the guts. Were particularly problematic.
Yeah, that led to
one has to acknowledge.
Well, and the candidate that they put up for Tamworth was probably a bit controversial too.
But having said that, you know, everybody, of course, tries to make advantageous points about this election. Fact remains, Sunak is not getting through.
But is Keir Starmer?
No, Keir Starmer's not getting through either. But Labour, for one reason or another, and I think it's a negative reason, in that Rick is right, they just can't stand this lot anymore.
OK, I want to go to the calls. Dave from Stoke-on-Trent, you're up first. What do you think? General election now, we've seen the results of these by-elections.
Yeah, definitely. The sooner the better, basically.
But do you not think that, you know, as Rick said, that we have these fixed terms for a reason? And the reason we do that, and we see it all the time when governments change and policies change, that we get sort of short-term thinking. And we want to allow Rishi Sunak to try and hit the targets that he said he would at the beginning of his time as PM.
Yeah, but 13 years is long enough for any government. I would say the same if Labour were in power for 13 years.
But he hasn't had the top job for 13 years, Dave. He hasn't been calling the shots. So
he was the second most powerful man as Chancellor.
He wasn't the most powerful man.
No, but he was. Being a Chancellor is the second most powerful job. And actually, with the incompetent Boris Johnson, he was calling the shots a lot of the time.
Do you think, Rick, giving Rishi Sunak a little bit more time, we might see better results in terms of his targets?
Storm, everything changed in the spring of 2021 when the lockdown parties started coming out, and public opinion changed incredibly. If you look at the local elections of 2021, the Conservatives were still doing surprisingly well. They held onto the Birmingham mayoralty. They came close even in London in 2021. Then the lockdown fiasco of parties emerged, and that is when the public started to change their tune about this government. The fact that it's Rishi Sunak I think most people would agree that Liz Truss was a disaster.
I have no opinion.
But Liz Truss doesn't.
But most people would see that and see where people's fortunes changed, and it all changed in 2021. To be honest with you, whoever had a crack at this was going to have to have an incredibly hard go at the whip and not get anywhere. Because there will be a Labour government next year.
So you think that actually in terms of public opinion, it changed because
It
of
changed in
Partygate,
2021
not
because of
Liz
Partygate.
Truss.
Liz Truss added to the woes.
Only compounded
But
a
if you
decision.
look at where the polls were going, the polls went in 2021. 2022, it was a fiasco during the summer as they were infighting who's going to be
You
the
don't
next
think
leader.
Rishi Sunak, given a bit more time, would be able to pull this back?
I think Rishi Sunak will move the polls by next year.
Oh,
That's what I was saying.
no.
I think he will
You
move
are
the
so
polls.
right on everything you'd said thus far. Rishi Sunak hasn't got what it takes to be a
He'll
leader.
move the polls, Yasmin. I'm just saying there's not going to be a 22-point swing to Labour in the general election. I will be working election night. I interviewed Ed Miliband this week and I was talking to him about this and he is not counting his chickens either. They do not think they're going to win by
which is
22
good.
points.
They shouldn't.
They're literally, they don't.
But do they think they're going to win?
I
Do
think,
you think they're going to win?
Yes, yeah, and I think.
Well, in which case, why not let them start a little earlier and just call a general election
Because then
now?
we'd have to do that in every single parliamentary term. We go, all right, when someone's falling behind, someone's going on top. All right, I don't like it now. They're not doing well. We'll have a general election.
Well, they're not holding a general election because they're not doing so well. Of course they are. They're calculating exactly what you're saying shouldn't be done. They're not saying the country needs us. We don't need them. Go now.
There is not going to be a general election until next October.
Paul from London, what's your thoughts on this?
Hello.
Hi there, Paul.
Yes, hi.
What do you think? Should there be a general election?
I think government should be dissolved by the monarchy and recreated by the people that are from the country, from general people, people that understand what really matters in the heart of the country.
That's what the House of Commons was supposed to do. It was supposed to represent the country in general, and each MP represents their constituency.
I think the common people should be running the country.
But
People that know what it means. Look, I think the government are so out of touch with life and reality. They seem to put all their problems and everything abroad and forget about what's going on in their own doorstep. So I think the normal people like myself and people that are watching this programme at home should be running the country.
OK, Paul, how does that work then? Because we have a House of Commons. You seem to think there can be a different way of doing it.
The same way that the MP was elected. You don't need an education and a 5-star education in a university to be elected as an MP. You just need to gain the support. That's all you need. Same way that they can get elected into government, a general person can get elected into government as well.
Well,
Not all MPs went to Cambridge and Oxbridge, though, in Oxford. Though,
yes,
before.
that's fine.
That's what he's saying,
Some of
though.
them do,
I just
some of
can't.
them don't. What I'm saying is that there should be a mixture of people in Parliament.
Interesting.
There should be people. There are people that are very clever in Parliament. I agree with that. But there should also be people that come from general walks of life as well in Parliament.
But there are a lot more people from different backgrounds than there were even 15 years ago. You know what? If you want to stand, Paul, you should stand.
Dissolved.
I see what you're saying, Paul. You don't like the MPs that are in there. You want them to be voted for again, perhaps, and maybe a more diverse selection of people.
It needs to be dissolved. Forced up. It needs to be dissolved by the monarchy for a period. We should stop the government right now. We should dissolve it, okay, and we should slowly reinvent the system.
Okay, Paul. I hear you. There's a revolution happening. Paul, thank you very much for your call. Chris from Manchester, what's your views? General election?
No, and Paul, how refreshing. Let's just put it in perspective what's happened overnight. The by-elections, Nadine Dorries threw her toys out because she wasn't going to get in the House of Lords. Mm-hmm. I don't think she even wanted to be elected. The other fella, allegedly, been accused of sexual assault, so who was going to vote for him? I'm a licensee, and Storm, let me tell you, and I reiterate what Paul's saying, people have had enough. People have... Why can't a government of the day, and I don't care whether they're red or blue, why can't they go and absolutely batter the... financially, I mean, the big conglomerates, the energy companies particularly.
Yeah.
There is no reason why, as a licensee, my bills have gone up from 900 quid a month to £3,500 a month. I haven't budgeted for that. And they're just making money hand over fist.
I think the problem is if you're talking about energy companies, if you start battering them, inevitably we end up paying the price for that on the cost of our energy. That's just the way business works. It seems to be the consumer that always gets hit.
Other European, and thank you for making that point, Chris and Paul, that sense of frustration that both of you expressed, I have I absolutely share. And this idea that both parties, both main parties, think that they have to kowtow to whatever biggest businesses demand has been the problem here. Okay? When I first moved to this country, we had a mixed economy. We had, not rabid capitalism, but we had a mixed economy where there was social welfare and concern for everybody in this country. And it was an incredibly good model. After Margaret Thatcher, it shifted right and right and right. And big business control us all. And I can understand the frustration that people are expressing. During this time, in many Scandinavian countries, France, have said to the energy company, no, we don't do that. Because they're funders. They're funders of the party.
Can I just come back on that very quickly? Was it Churchill who said, when asked what he feared most, events, dear boy, events? Was that Churchill? I think
yes,
it was. Right. So, the energy crisis was an event caused off the back of Ukraine and people coming back to work.
I think it was
after.
Macmillan.
Was it?
Not Churchill, Macmillan.
Was it Macmillan? Oh, gosh. Bit of reading to be done.
Still a good
Both of us wrong.
Yeah. You learn something every day. But the energy crisis happened across Europe. It happened absolutely everywhere.
They did something about it.
But so that is an event that no matter what the government of the day, you feel kind of like Chris in Manchester there talking about, I think he's a landlord, isn't he? He's seen his bills go from 900 to 3,000. No matter who was really in government, that was going to reflect. And the government on the energy crisis, I've got to say, provided the biggest ever bailout of homes and businesses to provide. It was billions and billions of pounds, bigger than most government departments.
But that's our taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
We want the companies to be paying. They have made bigger profits in the last 12 months than ever before. And why do not
Correct. But they are charged at a marginal rate of 85%.
No, they are not being asked to share the
Do you think
they
that
should
these
have to pay.
companies are just going to shoulder that cost, or do you think they are going to feed that cost through elsewhere?
Well, if it's worked in France and it's worked in the Scandinavian countries, it's not working here because both parties are beholden to these companies.
OK, I want to get one more call in. Tim from Merseyside, what's your thoughts on this? Do you think we need a general election?
Hi there.
Hi there.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, thank you. I don't think we need an election. I think it's pointless. Nothing's going to change if we have an election. We've got to get the same old people in power who aren't going to be doing anything much good for any of us.
So what do you want to see happen?
Well, let's just address the problems that we've got, shall we?
But
and not
who
think, it's all down to politicians. Let's just work for ourselves.
Well, how does that work then, Tim?
Well, we work for ourselves. We stand in and shove a spade in the ground and dig things up and, work for ourselves.
OK, interesting theory there, Tim. Thank you very much for your call. We don't need a general election. We'll just work for ourselves. We'll have to move on.